Friends, hello friends. Today I'm going to talk about evolve. Already in the first three series of Wow series, first series I talked about small pleasures. In second series I talked about strokes. Strokes means thanks or appreciation or gratitude. In the third I talked about involve. In this particular series number 4, Wow series number 4, I am going to talk about evolve. Don't think I'm going to talk about Charles Darwin's theory of evolution, where generally people ascribe that he is the man who talked about survival of the fittest. But in this connection, I have to clarify survival of the fittest word is not coined by Charles Darwin, it is coined by Herbert Spencer. But anyhow, I'm not going to talk about those things. I'm going to talk about as a human being, when you walk in the path of life, as you grow, you have to evolve. Evolve means what? I consider three aspects of evolving are more important. One is the physical aspect, second is the intellectual or mental aspect, third is the emotional aspect. Unless we take care of all the three, there is no point in our growing. Without growing, without evolving, we are going to degenerate. Therefore, I am going to talk about these three aspects. Let me first touch physical aspects. When I talk about the physical aspect, most important thing is the food we take. Unless proper nourishing nutritious food is there, we are not going to survive and prosper. But most of the time people go by what the latest fad or fashion is there, keto diet or proto diet or this diet or that diet. I sincerely advise you not to go for those diets. Go for what your mother has prepared, what your grandmother has prepared. If you remember correctly, your mother or grandmother used to prepare food depending upon the vegetables and fruits available at that particular season. All those items are part of your food. Stick to that food, but you may say, what about my craving for junk food? Once in 10 days, once in 15 days, you can have junk food like pizza or hamburger, but not on a regular basis. Second aspect of this physical aspect is dress. You have to wear proper dress. Most of the people think that what is so important about dress. In this connection, long back, I read a story about Ishwara Chandra Vidyasagar, but that is during British times. At that time, he was asked to come for a dinner by a host, and he goes there with his dhoti and kurta. But the security guard won't allow him because it's not the proper dress. The dress allowed is at that point of time, because it's a British time, is European suit. Therefore, he goes back and wears a suit and comes back and gets, and God allows him. He goes, when he sits for the eating, he takes the food and gives to his shirt, gives to his coat, gives to his pant. He going on asking the coat, would you like to have more soup? Then the host comes running and finds out what is the reason and says, is extremely sorry about that. But for me, during the present times, it is most important to have proper dress. Why? You can't go to a funeral in a suit, and you can't go to a party which is hosted by some important persons in a kurta paisama. It all depends upon the occasion. Depending upon occasion, you have to wear your dress. I know a friend of mine who wears 5 dresses in a day. I was surprised. I asked him, why you are changing so many times? He says when he sits for meditation, he will have a separate dress that is slightly loose. When he goes for a walking, he wears a different dress. When he goes for an exercise, he wears a different dress. When he goes to an office, he wears a different dress. When he comes home in the evening, he wears a different dress. And at the time of sleeping, he will have another dress. He says that even in the middle of the night at 11 o'clock, somebody comes at the door and knocks. He opens the door unhesitatingly because he's already properly dressed. But don't go and open the door with a torn kurta paisama or a lungi which is slipping from your waist. That looks very awkward. But nowadays, I'm also trying to follow his advice. Therefore, my most important advice is go for a proper dress depending upon the occasion. Maybe you may not change 5 dresses or 6 dresses as my friend is doing, as I am doing nowadays. But most important is you should know how to dress. Then third important aspect is how to behave, how to have gestures, proper gestures. Unless you are in a proper way behave, physically, I'm talking the physicality of behavior, hand movements, how you look at, where you look at, with whom you are interacting, they are also make most important impression in the first meeting. Therefore, you should not only have a proper dress, you should know how to gesture, how to talk properly. Therefore, my sincere advice to all of you, my friends, is be conscious about what the dress you are in. Then coming to the second aspect known as intellectual aspects. Generally, people, psychologists refer it as IQ, intelligent quotient. But how to improve intelligent quotients? My advice is there are many things you can do. But most important thing is read books. Read books on psychology, philosophy, and most important is management also. If you are a youngster trying to come up in life, try to read books on management and also a bit of psychology and philosophy. A lot of books are there on positive psychology. I want you to go through those books. If you search the Google, you will get those things undoubtedly. But most important is you have to go on reading. And second most important thing is you have to maintain good contact with good, intelligent people. People who can vibe with you, but not people who are dullers, who are not up to the mark. I am not talking about the standards of money and etc. I'm talking about your intellectual standards. You should be in a position to interact with him, converse with him in the subject, in the knowledge which you can share and he can share with you. That is the most important thing. And third most important thing is avoid toxic people. There are people who are with a negative attitude, always criticizing, everything for them is bad. Therefore, try to avoid those people. And now, most important thing is read some good books. As I have said, reading good books, reading is a good habit. In this connection, I would like to suggest some books, but I am a 76 years man. My books are books I have read and which made lot of impression on me are books which I have read 20 years back, 30 years back. Doesn't matter. Old is gold, they say. Try to read them. One of the book I recommend is Dr. W. Dyer's Your Erroneous Jones. One of the best books you have to read. He talks there about twin devils which torment mankind. One is known as regret, another is known as worry. How to deal with that? You read that book, you will know. Another book which I liked very much was Born to Win, which is by Dorothy Jonge Ward and Muriel Jones. Fantastic book, you have to read it. Coming to other book which I liked was Stephen Harkovy's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. There are a lot of books he has written, but this book I find to be very, very important. Then one more book, you will be surprised if I suggest. I read this book when I was 20 years or so. But when I read that book, I couldn't understand. I threw it. I said, what type of talk is doing, what type of matter is handling, I couldn't understand. As I grew old, I started reading and reading again. It is one of the best books. You know who has written that book? Sheldon Cobb. The book's name is If You Meet the Buddha on the Road, Kill Him. That is a very, very lovely book. It is always with me. Another book which I like was Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, one of the Nazi concentration camp sufferers who has discovered logotherapy, but one of the fantastic books. In that book, he talks what is the most important thing for human life, human existence. What is the ennobling experience one can have is helping others. You will go through that book, one of the very, very, very good book. In a lighter vein, I can suggest one more book, Hermann Hesse's Siddhartha. But it is a different concept. But if you read that book, you will understand what is the basic concept. Therefore, these are the books I recommend and have good friends, good books, and etc. Another most important aspect is emotional quotient or emotional intelligence. Previously, this emotional quotient concept has come hardly maybe 20 years back, and which is much more popularized by the positive psychology. But it is the most important aspect. Out of the three, this is also going to be most important. Unless you develop emotional quotient or emotional intelligence, the life will not be properly balanced. It is a tripod on which human beings exist, human personality exists. The tripod is physical, mental or intellectual, and emotional. Then how to develop this emotional stability or emotional quotient? I am not very sure of how we can do it, but some suggestions I will make, you try to follow. Be confident what you are doing. Always introspect what you have done, where you have gone wrong, where you should do, improve yourself. And most important thing also I say is meditation. Meditation will help you to develop almost equanimity and balance of mind. Along with meditation, you can also do yoga and pranayama. These are all going to be develop you emotional intelligence. And you should be always balanced how you deal with people. Most of the time, we know how to react, not how to respond. In this connection, I want to share you small tip. It is scientifically proved when a neuron transmits a message to another neuron, there is an infinitesimal gap. That gap, if you can stay for a millisecond, then you know how to respond instead of reacting. What is response? That means when something happens, somebody says something, instead of immediately jumping to conclusion and saying something, you reflect for a millisecond and say what is the appropriate action, what is the appropriate answer you have to give. That is known as response. That gap, people call it, in scientifically they call it a synapse or synapse. And you think of it, and if you implement it, you are going to be successful in life. But most important is you always be self-assured. You always introspect and find out what you have done. And if anybody gives criticism, take it as a feedback to you. Most of the time people who try to give a negative criticism, you ignore it. But if somebody gives a constructive criticism, take it as a feedback. Try to find out where you can improve, what are the things you have to do to improve your skills, improve your attitude, or improve your balance in life. That is most important. I will sum up by saying one thing: being confident about you or being and what you are doing is the most important characteristic of an evolved person. Therefore, be confident. Your incredible confidence will be a great appealing trait in your personality. Therefore, be confident. All the best to you, friends. I will come back to you in course of time with another point.